Welcome to episode 4 of the Brazen podcast, where we explore how we can access the happiness available to us when we take ownership over our lives and decisions and get curious about what's available to us. We are your co-hosts, Callie Hughes, family nurse practitioner and functional wellness coach.
And I am Valerie King-Maller, a transformational and mindset coach.
So today we are going to talk about how you can become more decisive and take action so that you can move towards your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. So let's get started.
All right.
I know that this has been a tough topic for me throughout my life, just because I am really prone to perfectionism and not wanting to do something unless it's done like very well. And just, I tend to like just be very extra with things. You know, everything has to be like above and beyond expectations.
I can totally relate. I am a planner, and it can be very difficult to take that first step and not stay in the perpetual planning stage of any new endeavor.
Oh my gosh, the planning. So my husband always picks on me because I am a list maker. I love a good list. I love a good spreadsheet. And so I have this planner addiction where every year I will have at least 3 different planners. And it's just, I think part of it is just where I really want to have a good plan in place. Like I want to know what my routine is, and I want to know, you know, what I need to do in order to get stuff done. And so, yeah, planning is definitely one of my major traits.
And there's definitely a time and place for the planner and for being a planner, but it can stand in the way a lot of times of any action. And so a lot of times when we are coaching, that is the thing that we most try to encourage people to be mindful of, that if they find that they're spending weeks and weeks and weeks planning and waiting until their website's perfect, or their fitness program is fully lined out, or their, diet is like laid out perfectly, they won't start it. And so we always just encourage people to pay attention to the planning aspect of what they're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that I kind of fall into the trap sometimes, you know, not so much now, but it definitely was something that happened before I was really aware of it, is analysis paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just get stuck in this cycle of wanting to plan for every possible outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of turns into wanting to see the entire path, including the end result, which, you know, obviously in life, you can't always do that. You rarely can do that. And so you kind of get stuck in this cycle of being afraid to take action and being afraid to take that first step, because what if it's not right? Like, what if that isn't the first thing that you need to do?
Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what happens to all of us, is that we do overanalyze. And on top of that, there's often a million options on a way to move forward. And the key is to just take that first step. And even if it isn't the ideal first step, you'll know that pretty quickly and can try a different route. But the idea of just not moving forward at all is going to be way more detrimental to you achieving your goals than making the wrong first step, because at least
Mm,
you've taken some action towards that goal and you've eliminated a possible step in that direction.
yeah, definitely. Like we hear about it all the time, you know, and motivational speakers and whatever, people talking about how they just get stuck and they wake up one day and it's like they're living in this life that they don't like and they aren't doing what they want to do and they don't know how they got here. And really, the way that you get there is by not doing anything. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just become a passive bystander and let your life kind of take whatever route that is the easiest,
Mm-hmm.
path of least resistance, kind of. So, one thing that I always kind of use as my own personal mantra, I guess, as far as this goes, is it's actually taken from Frozen 2. So my daughter is a huge fan of that movie. And so we've watched it a good 1,000 times. So the parts where they talk about doing the next right thing,
Mm-hmm.
because that's all you can do, is like you can't see the path forward more than a couple of steps sometimes. And so just doing the next thing that feels right to you is all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have are you an intuitive kind of person, Val? Like do you feel when something is right or do you kind of make your decisions in a different way?
I, at different points, have done both. I think I'm naturally a more intuitive person. And I tend to kind of go with a gut feeling over sometimes things that seem logical. But at different points in my life, particularly when it's something a little scary, I've used a more logical approach to doing anything, and a lot of times that's actually to talk myself out of something as opposed to talking
Mm,
myself into something. So um well, you do need to have a sense of logic around your decisions, because some things are can be inappropriate or dangerous, or whatever. You have to be careful that you're not allowing fear to dictate every action you take, and that you
mm-hmm.
do pay attention to your intuition.
Yeah, it's so easy when you're just trying to make the logical decision, like using your using your brain too much when you make decisions
Mm-hmm.
is oftentimes such a hindrance because your brain likes what's familiar and your brain's whole objective is to keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
And familiar is safe, even if it's not serving you. And so by overthinking and overanalyzing, like the majority of the time, you are not going to take the path that seems like a bigger risk or seems scarier or, you know, would be the biggest change because your brain is equating that with that level of uncertainty with danger.
Yeah.
So sometimes just taking a quick leap of faith is the best way to go. I know that this wasn't exactly like a quick leap of faith, but just taking quick action and then reevaluating to see if it's going well, if this is kind of working out in a way that I want to continue with, was when I started my first business. I was encouraged to just start the LLC.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been so easy for me to sit back and be like, well, I really should just research how to start an LLC, make sure that I've, got the right business model. Maybe I should write like a business plan first. Like there are so many things that I could have logically decided that I should do first.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have led to me never probably actually just starting and
Mm-hmm.
creating that LLC. Instead, what I did was I sat down on a Saturday morning and I just went onto the state website and I filed for an LLC, and it took me like a half an hour. And in a half an hour span of time, I went from somebody who thought about starting a health and wellness coaching business to somebody who was a business owner.
Yeah.
And like just taking that step and sort of experiencing that shift in identity to where now I'm a business owner. Like legally, I own a business. That kind of propelled me to take other fast action. And fast action doesn't have to be poorly thought out action, but it's just not overthinking things. Like if you know that this is something that needs to get done in order to move you closer to your goals, just do it. Like make a plan and just do it. Because once I took that one step and I started the LLC, it kind of just, the next step revealed itself to me. And so I took that one and then I took the next one. And, within 6 months, I had a business set up. And it was like, that was the first step, I suppose, the first big step in me leaving the job that I wasn't any longer happy in and moving towards doing something that was totally aligned with like my vision for how I wanted my life to look. And it was aligned with my values. And yeah, so I guess that's just an example of what can happen when you just decide to take messy action. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think that whole sort of story talks a lot about what we mention to our clients all the time, which is micro goals. Like set yourself mini little goals that you can achieve really quickly, that will keep the forward momentum going, even if you have to keep reevaluating every few steps. Like at least you have that forward momentum, and it will just, yeah, it will keep propelling you towards your goal, which is great.
Yeah, totally. So, the other thing that kind of plays into becoming more decisive, taking messy action, um, the other piece that really plays into it is having a sense of your intuition. And I know that I also am an intuitive kind of person where I know a lot of people kind of describe it differently, where either you're hearing an inner voice that's kind of prompting you to go in a certain direction, or other people describe it as more of a feeling, like an internal sense. And I'm one of those people where I just kind of have this feeling if something feels right. I don't really know how to describe it, but I've just kind of honed that over the last several years where I'm just getting in better touch with myself. And by spending time being quiet and, I guess you could call it meditating, although it's not really like meditating because I have a really hard time with that. But just like the act of getting quiet with myself and focusing inward as opposed to outward, it's really helped me to tune into when things feel right, when things feel off a little bit. And that helps to guide my decision making. And other people can, the logic piece is definitely important, but I don't want people to like be making pros and cons lists until they, just give up on it and move on to something else.
Yeah. No, I think the sitting with with yourself and being really mindful of what you're feeling is super important. And within reason, a lot of times if you're feeling some fear or anxiety around the next step, it might mean that you are actually headed in the right direction. And once again, within reason, if it's truly unsafe for you, don't do it. But a lot of times, anxiety is just another form of excitement. And so just
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to what's going on in your body and then questioning those emotions and feelings, and what, potentially is the source of them. And in some cases, it's that you are headed towards your dreams, which can sometimes be a little bit scary too.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's Mel Robbins that says that excitement and anxiety are the same feeling. You're
Yeah,
just processing them differently.
exactly.
Yeah, so definitely, also keep in mind that like growth never comes from your comfort zone. You
Yeah.
have to step into that place where you're a little bit anxious and you're a little bit scared because things are uncertain. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're going to grow. And that's where you're going to see the positive changes in your life. Because you have to do stuff differently if you want a different result, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, today we want to tell you about a download that we have that's going to help you to identify your values and start taking steps in the direction that is going to bring you closer to your goals that are aligned with your values.
So, yeah, it's very important to, before you start taking any action, to understand what your values are. And I like to refer to your core values as your blueprint, for your life. And your values may change roughly in different decades of your life, but generally speaking, there'll be things that are important to you for most of your life. And so we'll include a download below, with some value exercises, but you can also find anything online, which is essentially just a list of words, that represent different values. And the best way to discover what your values are is to take that worksheet, select your top 10, and then limit it down to 3 to 5. You shouldn't have any more than 5 values, otherwise, they start to compete with each other. And once you've limited that, particularly your top 3 will be what you want to focus on when you're moving forward. And it's a good way to not talk yourself out of messy action, but compare your first steps with your values to make sure that you're headed in a way that's not going to take you completely off track from your value sheet. So we always recommend that you do that first, and then you can feel confident in the direction that you're moving.
Yeah, so we're going to link to that download in the show notes. So be sure to download that. And as you're going through it, if you have any questions or you need some reassurance that you're doing things correctly, you can always reach out to us. Our email is also going to be linked in the bottom with the show notes, but it is helloglowchallenge@gmail.com. So shoot us an email with any questions. And I just really want to encourage you, if you are enjoying this podcast, if it's helpful for you, then please rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you are listening on. The reviews really help to bump our podcast up so that more people can hear from us, but it also lets us know what you're liking about the podcast too. So please rate and review. And that just about wraps us up for today. So take some decisive, messy action today and start moving in a direction that's going to bring you closer to your ideal life. As always, live a bold, curious, and vibrant life. Bye.
Bye.